So, hi everybody. There's Gary and Alexis in LA. Hello down there. Wow.
Not to add to your complications, but would YouTube and Facebook mess things up for you?
They're on. I just pushed the button for them. Are they not going through? They should be.
Up now it is. Yes. Sorry.
All right. That's quite all right. Thank you for checking, David. Yeah.
We're still not recording, Robert.
I think. Should we record? All right. I will.
I know it's.
I'll do it. Here she comes.
Nice
Here she comes. Here comes that nice voice of a sort.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. That having been said, if we're ever doing any sharing, if you're ever doing any sharing, and you want it not to be recorded, just say, let's kill the recording. Okay? I'm doing a 5-week, 5-Saturday diversity, equity, and inclusion training with, I'm so rotten with names. I wish I could remember. I didn't have a chance to, I didn't think to look them up ahead of time. But among the many things I'm learning, and I'm learning more than I could possibly describe, or know, really. If we're going to grow spiritually, and if we're going to grow as a community, and not grow in size, but in depth, then for all of us to give ourselves and each other permission to actually be who we are, who we really are, is of the essence. And to not demand things of each other, and to not demand things of ourselves, because we're all, in the words of my father, who was a man of few words, but in a certain way of great brilliance. He said once, we do the best we are. We do the best we are. And I think that's true. So right here today, we come together, and it is very someone is unmuted. Could you check and see if it's you? I can look here. Jonas, it's you. Bye. There we go. Very pleasant. I look from square to square, and I see friends. I see human beings who I trust. And boy, don't we need that? Don't we need human beings we can lean on and trust? So please let's land. Let's stop and sit here. We've come upon a group of old friends. And we share something very much in common. And that is the way of the Buddha. And whether we are very well educated in the models and the theory and so on. The way of the Buddha is the way of kindness. And the way of the meditation can be supported by these refuges. I take refuge. I take refuge in the Buddha. What does that mean? What does it really mean? It means that in this moment, I'm willing to be awake. In this moment, I'm willing to notice what's really happening, which is refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Dharma. Which means, of course, acknowledging the laws of chemistry and physics and astrophysics and karma, the truth of impermanence. The truth of impermanence. Imagine taking that one really seriously changes everything. And I take refuge in the Sangha. This lineage, this human being lineage, is one, but this sublineage of the followers of the Buddha has been happening now for 2,600 years. Human beings just like us, inspired by the Buddha, who was just like us. Learning to support and love one another, to help us all become whole. So please let us take a comfortable upright posture. I spoke with someone just the other day who's been struggling to sit cross-legged. And even after all these years that I've known her, I discovered she'd missed that first instruction. Please take a comfortable upright posture. It's no more spiritual to sit on the floor cross-legged than it is to sit in a chair. The idea is to prop your body up in some way or another so that we can do the inner work. And one part of that inner work is to have ourselves stable. Sounds come, turning them off. And when we stop, we discover that there's a lot happening. There's a body sitting here. It sits here and it breathes. And we don't have to breathe the body breathes all by itself. And each breath has a beginning. Gabi, come on, let's go. With great kindness, we receive this body breathing in. And we go beneath the words body and the word breath into the actual experience of life, sensations. Of course, there may be thoughts. There might be restlessness and agitation. There might be desire. There might be disliking. There may be sloth and torpor, confusion, doubt. None of it is a problem. So right here in the midst of life, noticing any sounds that come, any thoughts, and ever so kindly returning to these core aspirations. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. That's a relief, isn't it? And whenever I discover that I'm hurting or suffering in some way, my plan, my intention is to hold myself in sweet compassion. Perhaps as I have never done so before. This is part of the refuge in the Buddha. I aspire to climb into the lap of the Buddha and rest in awareness. So, testing 1, 2, 3. Jesus. Testing, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay. This is a test, 1, 2.
This is a test.
Great. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay. Each breath that arises is a clear manifestation, a modeling of what's true for all phenomena. Comes into being, diminishes, vanishes. Sometimes it's skillful to open the field of awareness to include the whole body. And we can do things like body sweeping, or we could simply notice, yes, there's life there in what I think of as feet. There's life there in the hands, fingers. There's life in the back. In fact, the breathing occurs also in the back. There's life in the chest and the throat. in the face, in the forehead, in the eyes. And so sometimes we can abide, remain present, concentrated, mindful in the entirety of the body as it breathes. And it's not to get somewhere, it's just to rest here. we are strengthening, cultivating mindfulness, the capacity of being awake. Not just awake from sleep, but also able to monitor what happens at the sense doors objectively. To notice thoughts as thoughts, body sensations as body sensations, the pleasant as pleasant, the unpleasant as unpleasant. We're also exercising concentration, the mind's ability to focus on one thing and stay there. Remarkable skills. The wings of awakening. There is a beautiful, succinct teaching from Ajahn Chah. And he said, whenever you want to bring your practice into perfect balance, simply notice this moment is like this. That's really different from striving to get more concentrated or more something. This moment is like this. The body is like this right now. The feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and indeterminate, are like this. The various mental processes are like this. Maybe the mind is really easily concentrated right now, or maybe it's completely lost in fantasies. Maybe it's worrying. Maybe it's solving a problem. That mind is clearly not who you are, is it? It's a trance state. That which knows, which is aware, which is awake, is like this right now. Maybe there's a lot of that or little. The mood of the present moment is like this. Is it an effusive mood? Is it a joyful mood? Is it depressed? Is it anxious? Allowing mood to become an object of knowing. And then there's this good friend, the breath, coming and going, arising and passing away. And please now let us remember, which means we go to our cognitive capacity. Imagine that you are a human being. And you live on a small planet, 8,000 miles through at the center. It orbits a small yellow sun. And you live as an organism which has emerged from this planet. And you borrow everything that you have from it. Every molecule of your body has been recycled billions of times. Every atom. And you live with many more of your kind and many other kinds at the bottom of an ocean of air. It's not a very deep ocean from space. It presses on every square inch of your body with about 15 pounds of pressure. And every molecule of this air, every atom, has been breathed billions of times. The trees of the Amazon breathe in your carbon dioxide and build branches, leaves. They release oxygen. That oxygen makes its way here and there to your lungs. Feel this next breathing in and realize, remember, imagine. It has atoms that were breathed by the Buddha, that have been breathed by the dinosaurs, that were part of early plankton. And see, these are helpful, true cognitions with another purpose. Sensing, imagining, embodying you as a human being are capable of thought, of intention, of creating something. And so remembering your utter one-of-a-kind ever preciousness. Why not breathe in this air with a blessing? In the religion of my childhood, we had communion. This is the communion with all of life. And so we breathe in the air of the living earth. We breathe in the gifts of the grass in the garden and the Douglas fir trees. And the seemingly endless miles of the Amazon. We take it in as a blessing. And you might say the simple words, may I be happy, or that great blessing, that great mantra, I love you, with your name at the end. We are utterly dependent upon each other and the world. And so is the world upon us. So we exhale. And we can make this a blessing as well. May everyone who's on this Zoom meeting and this YouTube and Facebook broadcast, may everyone right now know how beloved they are. So we breathe in, may I be really happy. And not just the happy of getting something we want, or not even just the happy of a mood, but the happy of knowing how utterly inseparable we are from life. How life has always supported us. How we are the earth breathing. And so we're aware of the expansion, the chest and abdomen and lungs. And we know so much now about anatomy and physiology. We know that every cell in our body is washed with this blood that comes around and offers oxygen. And so the love that we inhale from all of life touches every cell of our body. Every one of the billions of bacteria that live as us. So when we breathe in, may I be happy, we are resting in the unbelievable complexity of life. And on the out-breath, may the tiniest of birds benefit from my practice. May the poorest of the poor in Bangladesh benefit from my practice. May those suffering from war anywhere on the planet benefit from my practice. May the victims of slavery and oppression benefit from my practice. May those who are deluded into thinking that violence and power over is the way benefit from my practice. And so we sit here at the very center of the universe, really. And the Sufis have a beautiful way of framing this. And that is to say, realize that you are the Buddha. That you are Kuan Yin, or you are the Mary or Jesus or whoever has inspired you and can again. You are Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 hands and arms and eyes to see the suffering of the world. You are Kuan Yin who hears the cries of the world. And on the in-breath, you breathe in all of the suffering in the world. Not personally. No way we could contain a billionth of that. but as that which knows, as that which is awake. Breathe it all in and let it transform into love and compassion, including for yourself. And then now breathing it all out to the furthest corners of the earth, to the furthest of galaxies. And so we rest, as Ruth Denison put it, in the beauty of our being. Now, here. May I be happy, may all beings be happy. And it doesn't take really any effort, it just takes remembering, doesn't it? The Buddhist teachings are very clear that what remains when the obscurations are removed, what remains as the foundation of our being is love, is compassion. And noticing the next breath in. Maybe add the great I love you mantra with your name at the end. And then on the out breath, include some loved one, some friend, a pet. And now bringing awareness into the body where it touches the chair. Awareness into the face, into the eyes. And keeping in mind this intention of being the Buddha or Kuan Yin, see how it is to form the intention to allow the eyes to open. It takes effort to lift the eyelids. And then at some point, light will occur, and then seeing will occur. And then little windows. Little windows happen. And they have exquisite human beings in them. And there's no reason we can't continue to breathe in as the Buddha and out as the Buddha. If we dare to develop enough presence, stability of heart and mind to unwind our own suffering, if we dare to take the lid off that and do the grieving that must be done, bearing with the unbearable that must be done, then that's what we see in the world too. So I invite you, find a face. Let your eyes be drawn to a face. Maybe someone you've never noticed before on the screen. Or maybe someone you have a deep relationship with. Or maybe someone whose story you know a little bit. Isn't loving and compassion the only sensible response? And it's not rocket science. It's just the heart. Maybe pick someone you've never really noticed before and imagine you've got 5 hours to hear their story. Now that'd be grand, wouldn't it? Who are you? What happened in your life that brought you to something as strange as Buddhist meditation? You should be out shopping and helping the economy instead of sitting here and navel gazing. Or here we are. Are you all right out there, Kimberly? I see you're under attack by a cat again. Cats like meditators. So, seeing, grateful. I think there's an announcement or two. One is, I've decided, it's been slow coming, I've decided that I am going to offer a Wednesday night class this fall on a favorite book, which is What the Buddha Taught. It's kind of a classic Buddhist volume, and it really is clear. So information about that will come out very soon. Anything else we should say, Jim, around that topic of announcements?
I would like to say that I'm looking forward to seeing some of you on Saturday, 16th. I'm going to be doing mindful movement online again for the October event in Qigong, bringing mindful movement and poetry and meditation together into a little package from 9 to 1 on Saturday. So if you can cut out of your schedule a little 4-hour section, you're welcome to join me. Thank you.
And I have a share screen. That is me wearing, I'm wearing this guy's tool belt. That tool belt weighs at least 40 pounds. And this is the downstairs hall at PIMC. The doors have all been removed. They're actually framing in the new doors. Oh, there's me. This wall, some of you might remember downstairs, this wall is ended here. So they cut this back for reasons, I guess it looks better for sure. This is now, I think, the new size. And this is the back door entrance to the center. For those that have been there, this used to be stairs. And they took a jackhammer to them the other day. And this is going to go completely. The ramp will come from the street and then come up to here and enter the kitchen living room. Or you can go over here and then back toward us, and you will then enter the Dharma hall. And these are the forms. These are kind of cute. these are the concrete forms that will be buried in the ground to exactly this. This will be at ground level, maybe an inch above, I think. And then they get them all level, and then they'll put 4x4 posts in here, and that will be the support structure for the ramps. And here, this is looking the other way. So the ramp is going to go here, in toward the back door, and then back, and then enter the building here. Actually, these windows here. And then here, this is just on Friday afternoon. The last thing they did was they took off this. They cut this stuff off here to see, is there a header? Is there a strong enough board across here to support a door, the space, the opening for a door? And there will be a new, what they call a storefront door here with lots of glass, so one will soon be able to leave the Dharma hall to go out to the garden, and one can enter that way on wheelchair. And here's a picture of Jim looking out the. This is not a good door to use now. Oh, and there's my grandsons. That's kind of cute, but we won't go there. All right, so it's happening, folks. There, and I just want to sing their praises. I've dealt with contractors a fair bit in my life, but I've never dealt with professional level contractors like the PNC construction. It's a completely different thing. They have very interesting tools. One of them that they use a lot, they have this huge vacuum cleaner. And it's sort of like, it's a big fan, huge, it's incredibly powerful. And when they're doing demolition, that's running in the room, and a pipe goes outside, and the pipe has completely clear air because it's got a HEPA filter between them and the world. But and then when they leave at the end of the day, everything's spick and span. That's a funny old phrase, isn't it? So I want to sing their praises a bit. So next week there'll be a lot happening. They'll be opening up the door out of the Dharma hall and much more. So I will keep you posted. If you want to see the pictures of this ongoing, whenever I go, I will take pictures. And if you get on the connections on the listserv connections, you'll see them. All right, that was a lot of words. Poof. Jim, you have any movement in store for us?
Yes, sir. Anyone who wants to join, we can do some mindful movement right now. So let me see where I'm standing here. I've got too much ceiling. There we go. All right. So I'm just getting in touch with my feet on the floor, with the idea that below all the infrastructure of the place where I live, there's the earth. So I'm in touch with the floor in this room, but I'm extending my attention down into the earth. And the earth is supporting me, just like it has supported humans in this form standing for thousands of years. There's a mutual admiration arrangement between this human form standing and the earth holding this form in gravity, but at the same time just filling the form with loving awareness from the earth up. There's a support from the earth up. So we're standing in this process. We're not standing in a thing. It's not a lifeless thing. It's a breathing thing. We're absorbing support from the earth. We're breathing.
Hello,
we have agency to use various kinds of muscles to lift. We can lift with the palms down, and lift the arms and release them. Just slowly moving all the different muscles, all the different sensory processes that organize ligaments, muscles, bones, nerves. We lift and things happen. We have the intention to lift and things happen. We can turn the palms over and lift up with the palms up. Feels very different. Different combinations of sensations. And of course, this is not the way we lift when we have a lot of weight. This is just an experiment in sensation, just noticing the sensation. It's much better to turn your hands down, sink into your legs, pull straight up, and let the big muscles of your legs work. Drop down and pull up and relax down. So we're relaxing the arms, but the legs are working in this process of connecting to the earth and letting the earth support us. And then coming to stillness, taking a few breaths, and feel how the breath is a little deeper now. When we use these big muscles, they produce lots of carbon dioxide. Then we have this long exhale. Okay. And if we turn our bodies a little bit, I'm going to turn towards the corner and then hold my hand opposite my heart and let the other hand rest on a cushion of air underneath. So I'm pulling my hip back, and that pulls the whole configuration over. Then I switch, and this is cloud hands. I never lose connection between the palm of one hand and the heart. I'm always reestablishing connection between the palm of the hand above and the heart. Switch, and then the other hand is in touch with the earth. So I'm always maintaining connection with the earth, absorbing that support with one hand and absorbing the loving attention of the heart with the other hand. And the body's built to handle a certain degree of flexibility. And shifting the weight into one side. One leg has more weight than the other. Because these arms that are in touch with the earth and the heart, these arms have substance. There's earth element in them. And it takes a little bit of a agency and focus of purpose in all these muscles that support the arms and the hands. The support comes from the earth, through the bottoms of the feet, up the legs. The legs work cooperatively. You take the wait for a while, and I'll join you later. And then you take just exchanging back and forth. And there's so many times during the day when we freeze up and get solid and frozen in one position and get stagnant and stale. This refreshes all the cells of the body. We're breathing into all the cells and we're moving almost everything with this simple rhythm. Shifting back and forth and then coming to stillness, relaxing the arms out of the shoulder socket. What are the feelings now in the body? Feelings along the surface of the skin and touch with the fabric of the clothes. Feelings inside. The presence of the earth support, it's always there in the bottoms of the feet, even if we don't pay attention. The supporting energy of the earth is pouring into us all the time. And then our connection with the sky is pouring out the crown of the head. We're like a tree standing here. Roots in the earth, open to the sky. And we can pull our elbows back with our palms up and take a breath in, and then sink and turn the hands as you push forward until your palms are facing out to the side. So I'm extending the arms and then drawing them back into till the elbows are pulled back gently, and then extending softly forward, sinking, breathing in. We were sitting for a long time in one position, but all those muscles that were patient and waiting can now stretch out, release the tension, take in a good breath of air, and a long exhale. Breathing in and out. Once more. And out. Now drawing back, releasing the hands down, pausing, feeling the sensations in the arms and the hands. Life. We were circulating energy and chi and blood, stimulating nerve endings all through the central torso, out through the shoulders, into the hands, down through the legs, into the bottoms of the feet. Life everywhere in this standing form. We can choose to scan it with attention and deliberation, deliberately moving from one area to another, or we can just receive the sensation and determine what's the predominant sensation in this body, this breath. And then just marking off the end of a practice session, we draw in all of the attention and affection and an interchange of energy between the right side of the body and the left, the bottom area of the body and the upper area, and we just make this big circle out to the side, overhead and down the center. bringing it all together at the end of a session, appreciating everyone working together, feeling together, healing together. Any stagnation that was beginning to hold us down, become an obstruction, we've released, stepped forward into well-being, well-being. And then releasing down, coming to stillness, grateful for the ability to stand with the millions of forms that have gone before us, standing right here in this place. And the millions in the future, we hope. Bringing our hands together. Thank you very much. We'll see you Saturday. If you would like to spend more time investigating the world of mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of thoughts, poems, and silence. Just sitting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Jim. My apologies to those of you on Facebook and YouTube. I forgot to do one thing, and so instead of seeing Jim doing the Qigong, you were seeing me here. I think I need to add a production team of 2 or 3 people. How is the sound sounding? Can you hear me okay? Oh, no. Well, a lot of what I said just then was simply not broadcast. How odd. Interesting. So I'm going to say this again to the people on Facebook and YouTube. My apologies. I forgot to push one button, and so instead of seeing Jim, you saw a strange screen here. Can you hear me now in Zoom land? Yes, thank you, David. Okay. Well, I have just one short something to share, I think, and then I'm going to ask if you have questions. And but the short something is this. There was a question from one of the people on the morning gathering about reflecting the enormous cost of fixing PIMC and making it secure for the long run. And why do we need a center? Why have real estate? Why? And it's provoked some really interesting thought for me. I mean, there's some pretty obvious stuff like, well, we need to have a place to meet and have classes, though we haven't had it for a year in some, and we have done okay. But I've been there a little more lately. Actually. Eric and Jim and Maggie and I were there again yesterday, moving furniture around. They keep discovering there's places that they didn't know that they would have to, or they didn't realize they would have to demolish stuff, so we were moving stuff around. But even in that, there were that'd be a good example. The four of us were there. It provided a context for some really fine conversation and for some commitment to a joint project. And we really need each other. And we need to have contexts where we get to know one another well enough that we can let our hair down some and we can be vulnerable. And that's one of the things that happens in the classes that happen at PIMC and the retreats. We develop a community in which honesty can prevail. We can actually be more open with ourselves and each other because we're well supported by each other. And the same thing exactly is true in our meditation practice, that if we, as it becomes more and more routine, and as concentration and mindfulness and the other enlightenment factors build, we gradually encounter the parts of ourselves that we have been out of communication with. And that's where there's huge healing that comes in that. And the model that I subscribe to of awakening is not that it's up, up and away, though I did try that for a long time. It's down, down and in. A willingness, I will feel what this body really feels like. I will really notice what thoughts are here. I will discover the places of my biases against this and for that. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. And I know some of you are at a distance and the center is not of particular relevance in a way, but I would propose this, that one of the things I am committed to, I think I've said this several times, I have found a company that will help us create a hybrid system so that we can actually have live and at a distance and be relatively well integrated. So the benefit of that for people who do not live in Portland is that there will be a container which will be perhaps stable enough that you will be able to feel supported at a distance and also to feel very participant. I did one consultation with these guys, and one of the things that it would appear as though we need is a significant monitor facing the PIMC community so that people who are online will be seen. And also a camera, need at least 2 or 3 cameras, that there can be a camera facing into the group at PIMC so that people at a distance can see what's happening in the hall. So I think that's what I wanted to say. Not sure why that seemed important, but maybe it's just a reassurance that we're going to do our here's another piece of it. Part of what's coming from the diversity, equity, and inclusion work also is the understanding of how important it is that we feel that we can belong. How is it, they did an exercise yesterday and then broke into small groups, how is it that you know you belong? And of course we have our individual resistances to belonging and being present and so on. But also, how can we as a community really make the effort again and again and again over time to say, you belong. How could we do this better or differently so that you would know you belong? And I mean, among the obvious things, not instant to fix, but is to have a diverse leadership and diverse teachership, and really acknowledging our incredible diversity as individuals and as groups. So that's not as clear as I wanted it to be, but that's what was there. So I want to see, as I do every now and then, do you have questions you'd like to ask of me or something to share? And we'll see where we go. If you do have a question, let's try unmuting. See, that often works pretty well. And also the silence is just fine.
Hey, Robert, I have a question.
Dan. Oh, it's Dan. Hi, Dan. Do you mind if I make you big?
Go for it. Yeah.
It's the opposite of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I forgot. There we go. There's Dan. Hey.
Hey, there I am.
Poisson du jour.
When you were doing the refuges at the beginning, in the Dharma section, you started talking about laws and mentioned the law of karma.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could talk about what that law is. That's one that's never. It's always been a hard one for me, and I've actually been thinking about karma in the Buddhist perspective more. So it'd be helpful to hear you talk about that again.
There, look at that. Well, I just remembered Ruth Dennison saying, darling, once you have the Dharma, you can never get away with yourself. That's a little bit threatening, isn't it? You start waking up and you can no longer get away with anything. So, actually, I think I want to go back to gallery view. Hang on, please. I got to get my face off here. It's very distracting. Remove that. Oh, that's really got me there. Help. Can you get rid? Oh, here we go. So the law of karma. Actions have results. We live in an ecological system called the universe. And whenever I am called upon to speak about karma, I always want to begin with this caveat, which is that the Buddha, when one time the Buddha was away and he got back, and his attendant Ananda, who took a lot of beating from the Buddha in a way in terms of this next thing, the Buddha comes back and Ananda said, Lord Buddha, I was meditating very deeply and I've come to understand the law of karma. And the Buddha typically said, not so fast, Ananda. Deep, difficult to understand is the law of karma. So here I am about to speak about the law of karma, but I can tell you the way that it has come to really be meaningful to me. At first, my understanding of it was a very kind of Christian sin and punishment view. That if you're bad, you'll be punished, and if you're good, you'll be rewarded. And there's a lot of that in the Buddhist world, that there's a notion of gathering merit gaining merit by meritorious acts, especially among them is generosity. And so one tries to do good things, serviceful things, and in order to get a good rebirth. And that if one gets a good rebirth, and the actual hierarchy goes like this, that if you're a woman and you are of great service to the monks and the men, then your good deeds will be stored up in the karma bank, and you will next lifetime be born as a man. And if you're born as a man, then maybe your karma will be such that you could be born as a monk, or you could become a monk, and then maybe you could get enlightened. And I think that's pretty strange, actually, thinking. Not uncommon on the planet, but... So there's a kind of mechanistic view. If you do this, then this will happen in your next life, and so on. And there's also implied in that is that there will be a next life, the whole rebirth model. And I don't think we have to subscribe to any of that in order to make good use of the karma model. What could I use here? I got a battery. No, my glasses case would be better. Here's my glasses case. What will happen if I let go of this? Probably this. There's an action, I let go, and it's existing within a field of gravity, and so this is quite predictable. There's other things that are quite predictable. If you drive fast, you can predict that you're likely going to have an accident or meet someone in a uniform before too long. Or let's say you receive a phone call from a loved one and you feel irritated and angry by it, and you have a choice. You could call them back and be angry and irritable, or you could calm down and call them and be empathic. There's a choice there of what actions you're going to take, and the actions then are understood to have resultants. Sometimes this mind gets very orderly, and today it's a bit jumping around all over the place. But there's a misuse, a misunderstanding, and terribly pernicious misuse of the word karma, which is when something bad happens to someone, and they're trying to figure out why did this happen, which is usually a fruitless undertaking, though epidemiology is a real thing sometimes. But sometimes it's said that you had this car accident, or you got this bad diagnosis. Well, that's your bad karma. Actually, that's completely the wrong word. Even the word there's intentional action yields a result. You plant the seed in the garden, and the result is the fruits of the garden. The word karma means intentional action, and the word vipaka means the results. And we use the word, we don't use the proper term, that a person's, the context in which we find ourselves at this moment is, I think, the blossoming of the activities of the entire universe up until this moment, into this moment of being, including our own personal actions. So we certainly have some influence, but a lot of things, like there are national karmas. What do you suppose is going to happen as a result of the United States having been the largest arms seller in the world for decades? If there are consequences for actions, there's a national level. There's geological events. There's genetic structures. So here's the part that I find the most helpful. Wait, I had this example years ago. I was teaching at Hollyhock, and a woman came in to see me who was in her mid-30s, and she had lost 3 husbands. One to cancer, one to a car accident, and one to a float plane accident. And she had had several people say, you know, I wonder why you keep getting this bad karma. Why do you keep choosing the wrong men? This was not helpful because it was blaming of her. What I think, once again, back to what seems to me to be actually very helpful is, okay, this is the circumstance of the moment. This is the moment I'm in right now. There's no way I'm going to understand, unless it's a very simple thing, there's no way I'm going to understand how this came to be. It's so complex. It's infinitely complex. However, I don't have to go around wondering, why is God punishing me? Or I don't need to figure out why I'm here. But if I believe that my actions in this moment will have an impact on the next moment, that might help me. This is the context I'm in. What intentional action shall I take in this moment? Because I have a pretty strong belief that what I do now will affect the future. And that seems to me, for one thing, the first part of it is, well, this is where I am now. This moment is like this. How shall I respond? How shall I respond in thought, in speech, in action? Because I'm pretty convinced that this is where I have an influence on my future experience. I heard Ram Dass one time say about rebirth or not rebirth. He said, well, if I believe in rebirth, I'm in this circumstance right now, I've got this on my plate, I really want to get a good rebirth. So therefore, how shall I respond? Well, I'm going to be loving, kind, generous, sensitive, caring, etc. Well, what if I don't know that? What if I'm agnostic about that future rebirth? I am going to be reborn tomorrow. I'm going to live my way into the vipaka of today, tomorrow. So there's no difference in my actions because I really want my future to result from kind, loving, caring, generous actions. Dan, did I get close with that to what you were asking?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it seems, I don't know, there's a parallel, it feels like, between what you were talking about kind of going down and in with mindfulness and just really being open to what am I actually feeling? What is really honest and true? And I think there's a similar like clear sightedness about karma in the way that you're describing it, in that, you know, like if I'm being really real, what is this action going to do? I know that it does have consequences. So there's a sense of just, I think, being really, really clearly seeing that. that.
And it's not about guilt or shame. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert, are you there?
Hello, Pamela.
Hello.
I see you.
I think, yes, good. Now, don't make me big, okay?
I promise.
Keep me little, thank you.
Okay.
I think the rub with this discussion in karma for me is, how do we forgive ourselves? This is the hardest part. When I look at things that have happened where I've made choices that have hurt other people, and it may be that right now I need to take my new understanding and make the choices that, that I hope will make a better outcome. But there's so many unknowns in this whole process, and inevitably one is going to have to come to the point where you're going to have to do the really hard work of forgiving yourself, because you can look back on these choices and you can see unfolding, that you didn't think would happen, and now you see it, and it stings. It's just, you wish you could have been wiser. So, when you make choices, like Dan was saying there, you think about these consequences and you try really hard to make a choice that will make a good consequence, but inevitably it's messy. So the big thing is, even if there's not a grand karma scheme that's going to hold you accountable, at some level we hold ourselves accountable. And how do we forgive ourselves? So now I'm going to mute myself and let you comment on that.
Pamela. These consequences that you look at now that didn't turn out the way you thought, were your intentions to do harm when you weighed all the options and then made your choice?
No, no. I thought I was doing the right thing, but
Right.
I mean,
You should have known better. You should have known better. You should have.
yeah, I should. Well, yeah, and we're you think that you think you've learned a lot. You think you've studied, and you think you've come to a place of wisdom, and then I don't know if you ever get there, because you just always mess up. So the big thing is you just got to forgive yourself, and that's the biggest challenge of all. It just seems insurmountable. You look at the things that have suffered. I've had much suffering in my life, as most all of us have. And then I look back and I see how I contributed to that, and I contributed to the suffering of others around me at that time, or animals. And I thought I was doing the right thing, and I wasn't. And this seems like the human condition. It seems like until we figure out a way to unload this, groping our way through day by day with the level of understanding that we have, that we will just bear up under our suffering. And the older you get, the worse it gets, because you have, more screw-ups to add to the list. How do we learn to forgive ourselves?
Do you have a list, my dear, of your beautiful, generous, kind actions that turned out well and were of service to humans and animals?
Well, you get started on one, and then you think of something else, and then you just, it just kind of proliferates.
Yeah.
So, and you just gotta stop and not go there. Just can't go there. But then when you have this discussion of karma, it just, it seems to relate to that somehow. And
so the Buddha called the teaching on karma the light of the world. Isn't that an interesting notion? And the reason for that, I think, is that once we understand, then we can start unraveling this pernicious habit of self-hatred and blame, which exists really only in the mind. And I'm thinking of a story here. Someone asked, there was a time when the Dalai Lama sent a group of men into Tibet clandestinely. And one of them was his doctor. And it was a mercy mission. They were captured by the Chinese, tortured, and killed. And an interviewer asked the Dalai Lama how he felt about it. And he felt, oh, I feel very sad. I mean, these were my friends. And, these were fine human beings. And the interviewer said, well, do you feel any guilt or shame because you told them to go? And the Dalai Lama paused, and then he said, when it comes to something like that, I think back to what my intentions were. Karma is intention. And my intentions were very good. They were fine intentions. And so while I feel sad, I don't have any sense of having done something wrong or bad. And from what you've said, you have acted with the best of intentions. And I just reminded of a book by Sheldon Kopp. There was this really good therapist who was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he was going to die in a year and a half. He wrote 3 books. And one of them was, If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him, and which is an old Zen saying. But one of the things he said in that book that stuck was, all of life's real decisions are made on the basis of insufficient evidence. If all the facts are there, it's not even a decision. So I would say any number of times in your life, you were faced with circumstances, with animals, with people, that you didn't have all the facts, but you did have a good heart. And you were also perhaps, of course, blinded significantly by greed, hatred, and ignorance because you're an ordinary human. And so you made decisions that resulted in not the best outcomes. But then there's something else that's happening, which is that the more mindful you become, the more you will notice the thought pattern. Oh no, I did that wrong. I'm a bad person. I should have been different. And all that's happening in thought. That's also karmic action. And the more mindful we become, you can stop doing that. And stopping the doing of it is the end of it. While I'm remembering, there's a book that I highly recommend you get and read, which is called Forgive for Good. Forgive for Good by Fred Luskin, Luskin. You can also find forgiveness guided meditations on, I discovered something. On my website, on robertbeatty.com, if you scroll down, there's a place where there's 3 ways to access teachings. The one on the left takes you to YouTube. If you go to YouTube on, quote, my channel and look for forgiveness, you'll find talks on forgiveness and guided meditations on forgiveness. And there's another thread I'd like to weave in, if I may. Again, Pamela, I'm connecting with you on this if I can. Where does the past exist? It really exists only in the mind. And so to hold resentment toward ourselves for something that, quote, we did in the past and to suffer over that is really insane. Because we're making real something which no longer exists. Now, this doesn't mean we can't reflect on the past and then learn from it and so on, but the sense that, oh, well, I should have done it differently. Fact is, it was done differently. It would appear, of course, it's hard to remember what really happened in the past, though we create images and think they're real. But the ultimate forgiveness arises when we realize there's only now. And that all that stuff that happened in the past, we can learn from it, but it really isn't that, it's not tangible. So how are we doing? Are we chipping away at that certainty of your badness?
Well, it's a big job, but I understand, and it's gotten better over time. Once in a while, there's just a big, backslide. So, but it's gotten better. So thank you for that. That helps some.
Do check out Forgive for Good. Fred Luskin was a psychology graduate student who had an idea about forgiveness. He had yet to meet Buddhism when he read that book. Since then, he's met a Buddhist teacher or two, and he has he's taught around the country with them. But he wanted to carry out an experiment in forgiveness, and he found a perfect place, which was the women in Ireland on opposite sides of the Troubles, whose sons had been killed by the other side. They hated each other, and they were damn certain they were going to go to their graves without getting. They were going to stay angry about this, and they were going to hold on to these resentments, and they were never going to forgive anybody. And he carried out this experiment with them, and it was a week-long experiment in which he did what he recommends in the book. And they had something like a 90% reduction of their self-reported hatred and unforgiveness in a week. Now, how could you possibly do that? Well, one of the things that he describes, is this. You, Pamela, have done things in the past about which you have stories, right? If I were to say, tell me about that, tell me about one of those. And that's known as one's grievance story. And one of the things that we must do in order to forgive is to fully flesh out our grievance story. To write the grievance story, to get into all the feelings and emotions. This happens a lot in the therapy office. To write out to write the story out really clearly. To feel the feelings, and then to tell it one more time to someone who will really listen to you. And then you tell the story that last time to someone who will really listen with another understanding behind it, which is that the next time you notice that story coming up, you will change the channel. It's like, okay, I did this, I did that, I'm a bad person because of this, and look what happened, and then okay, and then you really honor that story. It's not to say it didn't exist, the story doesn't exist, but to really to do it very mindfully. And then to make the agreement with yourself that whenever that story starts running again, every single time, I'll switch to loving kindness meditation, or I'll do something different. So it's a recognition that the suffering arises because of what we're doing in the mind. And so here's a huge karmic intervention. I'm going to do something with my mind, which is very different than I've been doing all this time. And then there's more to his strategy than that. You know, there's another place. There's a guided forgiveness meditation. I think it's still there. If you went to portlandinsight.org and went to teachings, guided meditations, the second to last item from the bottom is a video of a forgiveness meditation I did. There. So I hope that helps. Oh, one more thought. Forgiving does not mean forgetting. It's not forgive and forget. It's forgive and remember. But it's to forgive is to take off the self-hatred, or to take off the hatred of the other. And so we still can learn from stuff we did in the past, but we stop trying to beat ourselves up or somebody else up because it doesn't work. It doesn't help.
If we can get the emotional element out of it, that seems to be the key.
Which comes through articulating your grievance story, including the emotions. And my presumption would be that around the stories that you torture yourself with, there is sadness and anger. Maybe
Awful, yeah.
Maybe some
Awful.
despair and
all of it.
so.
All of it, you know.
So here's a question for you. If we were sitting together in person, I would be tempted to say something like this. So, Pamela, there's a part of you in there that's really hurt. And she's been internally, she's been being hurt by you for a long time. How can we help you move to the place where you somehow or another can hold her in your arms and let her cry, let her be angry, and comfort that part of yourself? Because at the time of those decisions, she did the best she could, and she's been all alone with all that sadness and fear and anger and hurt ever since then. And we don't do well when we're not cared for, when we're not surrounded by love. And so, you know, there's that little catchphrase I say a lot. I aspire to love and accept myself as much, as fully as I can in this moment. That's your task. How can you love that part of yourself that's so hurt and so hurting? So the part that kind of gets up on its high horse and says you were bad and wrong and you should have known better, and that part too, that's another part of you that's just hurting and needing love.
This is the life's work. I think this is the life's work. I think that, you know, you have moments when you have liberation and you break through, and then you have moments when everything is really dark and you think it'll never be, you think you've not made any progress at all. And I think this is a life's work. And
may I respectfully disagree with you?
Really?
Absolutely. I think that if you took this on as a practice, that you don't have to have this this view of yourself more than a few months, if that.
Oh, Robert.
Really?
Oh,
Forgiveness.
I don't know, Robert.
I'm challenging credulity, aren't I? Well, so you have a belief. If I may be bold, you have a belief that you're going to have to feel significantly this way for the rest of your life. And I would say that's patently false.
Well, no, not really significantly, but I think that the dawn will the dawn will emerge and it will get brighter. I assume that it will get more liberated as I go on. But I don't expect to be completely done with it ever.
Well, I'm hoping that you'll go for a quantum leap and just really let go of the whole damn mess.
Oh,
I
you're a
mean,
good man.
That you could. Well, I've seen it. I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in others. I used to have so much self-hatred. It's just a bad habit.
What does everybody else think? I look at everybody, I look at all these faces and
Let's hear. Let's see what they
some
say.
people are laughing. They must be the happy ones. And then I see some serious ones that aren't so sure.
Robert, I found the video and put it on the chat.
Oh, good. Thanks, Jim. You're wonderful.
I've worked with it, and it's really powerful.
Well, Robert and Pamela, this is Joshua chiming in a little bit on this notion of self-forgiveness, if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pamela, breaking my anonymity, but I was a practicing alcoholic for 25 years, and I did a whole lot of stuff that a lot of people don't even have to do. And I learned to forgive myself for all of that. I came to a place where I understood the context of my past actions as a result of ignorance, as a result of not having all the information about myself and the world. And for what this is worth, none of us is, I guess for me, the one part of it was understanding that none of us is operating with full information ever. That's the job of God, and I'm not God. And so I don't have all the information ever. So there's always going to be mistakes or blind spots that I have as a human being trying to exist in this life. The metaphor I use is like looking at the night sky through the telescope of my own perceptions. And I think that everything I see is reality, when in fact, there's an entire universe out there that I can't see because I'm only looking at a few parcels of what's actually out there. And really getting that in my soul and in my mind allowed me to forgive myself for those past mistakes. That was portion number one, was kind of putting the key in the lock and opening it up. The second part was, changing my habits and patterns. And I totally agree. And it's been my experience, what Robert said, that self-hatred is just a bad habit. It's a hard habit. It's like smoking, right? It's deadly. It's cancerous. And it's very addictive, and as a person who lived that for several decades, it's a hard habit to break, and I still fall into that pattern every once in a while. So, I want to concur with Robert and say it's been my experience that you can completely break that habit. And the third thing I'd like to share, if I may, that I heard very clearly, and the thing that I had to jettison everything I thought I knew about anything, and come to a place of abject humility around how this process might be able to work. And when I opened myself to that, I gave myself the ability to have that quantum leap Robert was talking about, because I'm going to second that. That's totally possible. And I hope that you can come to a place where you can entertain that possibility in your life, because it will happen if you give yourself to it. And much love to you. I understand what you're going through.
Thank you. That's very kind. And it does help. That's very helpful. This is like peeling an onion, right? So when you reflect, and I'm a very shy person. This is not what I ever do. I don't know who this is today. So, but when you reflect on these things that it's a habit and you break the habit. But then when you begin to work on breaking the habit, in the onion, you're peeling the onion, and the next part is, okay, now those habits came from someplace. And they were actually instilled in me by people I love. I love the people who taught me those things. And so I feel like I'm betraying them. This is all very deep and odd, and then I also start to feel afraid, because of course those people were my authority figures. They were my parents. And, you know, there's punishment in there. You break those habits, you get punished. So it's an onion. You just have to keep peeling off these layers of ridiculous ideas about yourself and your world. And I have never engaged other people very much. I'm much too private to do that. And I think it is something I have to start doing if I'm ever going to get free of this. I have to start somehow allowing something with other people. And I honestly don't even know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. So this is a beginning, I guess, of that. I don't know. You know, I'm a very solitary person, and I don't engage hardly anybody because I'm safer there, you know. So this is probably about as much as I can take today. I'm probably full up. But thank you for everybody. Thank you all. Thank you for your smiling and your kind words and your chat messages. And I will keep coming back, and I'll keep trying, and maybe it will rub off on me.
I just want to quickly second what you were saying about other people. I had a really bad case of self-judgment, and I was part of a women's group that did Gestalt therapy. And when you found yourself judging, she would do this thing where you just do it and you do it more, and you'd act it out, and you'd sit on this pillow that represented the judge and judge yourself. So it became really clear what you were doing, and also how harsh you were treating this self that was represented by another cushion. And then we developed another cushion, which was the compassionate observer. And the other thing I wanted to say is this book called Taming Your Gremlin was like cartoons. It's one I even used with high school students sometimes who had a really bad case of self-judgment. It's humorous, but it really, really helped me. And I would just second your encouragement to be very careful about the group, but that you do find some way to engage with somebody about this, because I think you're ready to make huge strides. It's very clear.
I hope so. Thank you. I'm going to mute myself now. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just buried here. And too much kindness is a bad thing.
Is it okay if I jump in and say something real quick?
Oh, geez. Okay, Shannon, one more. That's it.
Well, so I was thinking the whole time that you were talking, Pamela, about, and as Robert was talking, about being like, you were talking about how your parents were your authority figures. And I think my parents, or maybe my dad, he's a little bit older, he might be in your age range. And, he came from, a harsh background, religious, but also there was abuse and neglect and that kind of thing. And so I was processing as people were talking about this whole idea of karma. And then, kind of when people have done harsh things to me, I tend to withdraw from them in relationships. And, at some point there's like compassion and understanding for those people and where they've come from and what they didn't get, or abuse where they were given too much of harsh, teaching or punishment or self-hatred. I had a lot of self-hatred for a long time, still getting over that, still recovering from that because of my religious background. And but also at the same time thinking about things that, my father in particular, the things he did or didn't do for our family. There's some part of me that I have to look at that it's almost like I want a little bit of revenge. Like he should get a certain kind of karma. He should get negativity for the things that he's done. However, then I have to understand he did the best that he could. You know, he did better than his father did, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Very likely.
it's like, then I have to look at myself and, you know, what kind of negativity is in me to want that revenge karma, basically, or if that makes sense. And you know, and I've forgiven him, but I can't be in a close relationship with him because he's never fixed those processes in him. It's the same behaviors that, and he treats people the same, even if he doesn't want to. So his intentions are never to hurt people, but he just doesn't, he's not calculating what the things that he's doing are doing to other people. And I just have to understand that, but I can't put myself in a relationship with him. However, it sounds like you have maybe done some of those things to change things in yourself. And, you know, I don't know who it is in your life, you know, that the decisions you've made have affected, but, you know, I'd be willing to bet that if they're, unless they're caught up in a revenge mindset, you know, they might be able to explore forgiveness and work through things. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's,
Thank you all. Thank you all.
All right. Pamela's trying to close the door. It's like, geez, this just the door. Who was it that started talking about this? A part of you has gone completely out of control, Pamela. Well, I need to go soon. Anybody sitting on something else you'd like to share, but not about Pamela? All right, we gotta honor her desire to. Otherwise, we'll have to have her fleeing the room, which would also be okay.
Hi, Robert, it's KB.
KB, hello. Yeah, I can see you too.
I just wanted to say something very briefly that touches on Pamela.
No, nothing about Pamela. Pamela's
I know
protected.
it's not about her, it's about me, but it might resonate with her.
Right.
I just wanted to say that I know for a fact that sudden, drastic change can happen. It's not necessarily just like peeling an onion. It's not necessarily an even process of digging down. Sometimes it'll just go pop and a whole bunch of stuff will fall off in a moment. And I just wanted to encourage her that can happen.
I sure am having fun looking at you guys. It's lovely. You're lovely. Maybe I'm going to take a minute to speak about this. Some of you have heard it several times, I think. Oh, there's Molly and Aaron. Are you going to sing us out of here today? Okay, let me just finish saying this. A few weeks ago, Jim, you must be sick of this one. A few weeks ago, I was sitting in my backyard, right out there, looking up into the trees. And I was reflecting on my life. Incredible journeys I've been on in Australia. I was a cowboy in Australia, for goodness sake. I ski patrol in Switzerland and 7 major relationships in my life, and so on. And I realized there was a subplot going on all the time, which was, well, it was great, but. It was great, but. You know, on that trip, the trip overland to India, I got a bursitis on my shoulder, and then there was all the pain and blah blah blah, and then I was lonely, and so there's always this but, and then I somehow was able to focus on this but part, and I realized it was always there. There's always been something wrong in my life, and then I get teary when I talk about this every time. Yeah. And I remembered Ruth Dennison saying, "Darling, there's always a leak in the canoe. It's the first noble truth." And then I realized, holy shit. I've been finding a basic fundamental problem with my life because the first noble truth is true. It's always somewhat disappointing. Life is. And then I broke out laughing. It was like, who would have thunk it? Who knew that I had a story about life, my life being somehow not okay because it was such a normal life? Because there always was this leak in the canoe. And it's like I've been living in opposition to the first noble truth. And the relief of realizing that has been extraordinary. Speaking of things happening in a moment, that I'm actually still, I was having breakfast with Jennifer the other day, and I said, Jennifer, I'm not depressed. I mean, I haven't been depressed for some years like I used to be, but it's like that depression that's been dragging her, it isn't here. And she said, well, yes, but you are a little manic. It frees up so much energy to realize, well, of course today's disappointing. It's always a little disappointing, or a lot. But then there's this moment, and there's this connection, and there's this life, and there's those of you that I get to know parts of your story and how beautiful it is. So there's, in Buddhism, there's two major approaches, actually. There's the sudden enlightenment school, and there's the slow enlightenment school. Theravada Buddhism is the slow model. You do your practices, you develop over time, and then sometimes something happens. And there's an insight, there's a realization. It's like, oh, it really is all impermanent. And if everything is really all impermanent, I don't have to worry all the time. I mean, there are quantum leaps that happen in our practice, and there's no predicting when they'll happen. Well, there. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that this afternoon you can approach with enthusiasm, whatever your mood is, just feel it fully. And well, just at this moment, I'm feeling the burden of not being in one place, having just said all that, and then, but we're going to get to be sung out of here. Where'd she go? I lost her. Molly. You know, we can't quite see you. Is there any way you can move so there isn't such a bright light behind you? Okay.
Robert,
I hear a voice.
it's Kimberly.
Kimberly, hello, my dear.
Hi. I just want to say one short thing, and that is, what an extraordinary conversation. How amazing to connect with all of you through these little boxes where we see each other and feel such a heart connection and process our lives this way. I'm really touched and moved by all of it today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Kimberly. All right, Molly. You ready? You have to unmute yourself. I'm going to make you big, too. Here we go. Hang on. Spotlight. There you are. When you're ready.
May all
Beings be happy. May all beings be happy.
May
May all beings be happy. Sadhu. 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 Yay! Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Thank
everybody.
you.
Namaste, all.
Namaste, Jonas.
Great being with you all again. Thank you.
Bye, Jai.
Robert, thank you, Jim.
Goodbye, Tamara.
Thank you.
Bye, Molly. Bye, Aaron.
Bye, Robert. Bye, Jim.
You have ears. Are you a cat? I see. I think there's someone sitting to your right. Who's that over there just beside you? Oh, aha. All right. Goodbye, friends. Take care. Goodbye, Sherry.
Happy trails. Happy trails.
Goodbye, Roseanne. And Vic. Hi, Vic. And Susan and Michael. And Jim. Thanks, Jim. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook. Sorry for the technical complexities. I think it ironed itself out in the end.